nothing to rearrange. Sometimes you just get a feeling like you need some kind of change. No matter what the odds are this time, nothing's gonna stand in my way. This flame in my heart, like a long lost friend, gives every dark street a light at the end. Standing tall on the wings of my dream, rise and fall on the wings of my dream. The rain and thunder, the wind and haze, I'm bound for better days. My life, my dream, nothing gonna stop me now. My life, my dream, nothing gonna stop me now. Nothing gonna stop me now.
We're live.
Hello, I am still not Dr. Casey Frechette, but he is my fairy godmother. And speaking of magical people, we have Chris Campbell still in the studio with us, and our guest expert is none other than Stephen Hirschfield from Ion Tampa Bay.
Hello, Stephen with Ion Tampa Bay, as she said, and great to be here and share whatever knowledge I can to you.
This week is a very technical week. Oh gosh, I forgot what I called it now already. So it was, what was it? It was, oh, he's got a cheat sheet. So permalinks, blog rules, and widgets, oh my. But I think that with Stephen in particular, he has even more value to offer us in talking about the art, science, and practice of blogging. So we're going to do a lot of talking about that, but we will make sure that we hit by the end some of these more technical aspects. So Ion Tampa Bay, for those of you who haven't already Googled it and looked at it, or gone to iontv.com, is a news blog, and Stephen does a lot of really solid work in being there with first responders and getting images of first responders and putting out very hard, very hyper-local news almost immediately. And so he's got a lot of admirable work going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how this got started?
Well, it kind of got started. I do a lot of photography work. And I got my new Canon digital SLR. I was excited about it, and there was a structure fire in Dunedin. And I stopped at the fire and got some photos and video of the firefighters up on the roof with the smoke coming out and doing what they do best, protecting life, property, environment. And a wife got a phone call at work asking if I was her husband. They saw I put it up on YouTube under my own name, and asking, is Stephen your husband? She says, yeah. She goes, well, do you think we could use his video for our news? And she goes, I don't know, give him a call. So I got a phone call, and they said they saw my video, and I put it up 20 minutes ago. It's amazing, but that's what the internet is. And they asked if they could use it. I said, sure. I said, well, where'd you hear about it? How'd you know it was posted? She goes, oh, well, we got it from the Dunedin Fire Department. Okay, so somehow the Dunedin Fire Department saw it. So from that, I just kind of, I've always been a news hound, always, like most people want to know what's going on, especially when there's fire trucks on the street or police cars in the street or there's a helicopter overhead. Kind of want to know what's going on, always want to know, not just what the news puts out there now, but maybe a follow-up to that story. So came up with Ion Tampa Bay and kind of put it together, and it was really just for me and for the first responders to go out to the scene and I provide them with photos, and I provided photos to the sheriff's office and to some of the fire departments, and got things made on nice canvas prints that they've had in City Hall and some of the police departments of the people doing what they do, free of charge. I've just given it to them. I have a job. I do well. This is just a warped hobby, I guess I could put it. So that's kind of how it started, and it started with, oh my God, I got 20 people following me on Facebook. This is great. And Mom, can you follow me, please? I'll set you up a Facebook account. And I think I'm approaching 49,000 likes on Facebook alone. A lot on Twitter, YouTube. And a lot of people on Instagram, even though I don't do a whole lot on Instagram. got a limited amount of time, and you do what you can with the time you have.
And you do quite a bit with the time that you have. In fact, this was in 2013 when you went to that first fire and took that first footage that was brought in by the news. And then in 2017, you were voted Best Blog of the Bay in
Yes.
Creative Loafing's Best of the Bay contest or competition, and you were a reader's pick. So enough people knew about you and voted for you to get you up there. So congratulations, that's really
Well,
awesome.
thank you. Thanks.
And this is not your job.
No.
You have a full-time job.
I have a full-time job, sometimes weekends, evenings, days.
So how do you do this? How does this work? Can you take me through maybe your process? Let's just say just for one story or one general day, what does it take to do what you do?
Well, general day is I wake up. If I'm not awoken during the night, I have different ways of monitoring different things. I have a lot of really dedicated followers that help, with some information, background information, or at least give me a heads up that something's going on. But it's not unusual that I get up, I check my phone, check my messages. I have recordings of radio traffic. I got all kinds of things. So I start early. I get through and I'll try to pump out any articles of what happened overnight. Whether they're fires or crashes or who knows what's happened. Try to put that out. Head into work and obviously it's my paying job. That's my first priority. So if there's something happens during the day, I have a few people that'll help maybe share something on Facebook. Different people. You kind of got to depend on certain people and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And I try to pride myself on putting things out there that are appropriate, accurate, and timely. And if I miss something, I miss something. I mean, I'm not a full-time news service, even though people think that I am. People think I'm a huge news service, and not realizing that it's me with just very little help. And if people jump on my case, I have plenty of followers that say let go because they know. So I have a lot of people that back me up. That's not a problem. Then at lunch, I usually will try to update, the stories that things that need update, or if I'm getting things from public safety, whether it's law enforcement or fire department or things that I can update on the news story. And then usually on the way home, when I'm home, I start doing that. Luckily, I only live a few minutes from my job. So you see a lot of my articles come out in the morning, lunchtime, and then at dinner. And then obviously throughout the night when I'm not running my kid to soccer or doing other stuff that I do.
And I must say, if you haven't checked this out yet, you really need to just pause the video if you're not watching live, and you need to check out Eye on Tampa Bay, because the reason that people think that you are a huge news service
I'm everywhere.
is because you are everywhere all the time. I feel like such a slacker in this world when I look at your website, because you are everywhere all of the time. And it seems, and it is hyper local, but the amount of coverage that you get, I mean, there was a car accident right near campus where a car crashed through the kidney building. I don't know what it's, the dialysis center.
Oh, yeah.
You had that posted before
Yes.
I even knew that there was an accident there.
Right.
And you had already posted with pictures, and
there was and they were following the guy and tracking with a canine and everything else. And St. Pete PD is good. I'll give them a shout out. Not all cooperate with me, but they're good. If I need something, they're receptive. And most of them should be receptive because they really need to get accurate information out there. And you know how social media and people start making up stories. One person says it's like playing telephone, and by the time you get to the end of the line, the story's completely different. So kudos to them that if I try not to bother them very often, but if I need something, they're great. They'll get back and here's what's going on. And the public should know that, hey, someone's running and they're looking for them, or, and information that, hey, canine's tracking, stay inside. Don't go walk your dog. Those are the kind of things I'm trying to help them, help the public, and help everybody stay safe.
With how do you get these leads? Can you go into a little more detail? You talked about radio, I think you said radio scanners, and then you said people contact you through various social media. But can you just talk about the most common ways in which you get the information? And then I'm going to make this a long, complicated question, and if you don't remember all of it, we can...
I may need to start writing it all down.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, namely, how are you getting the contacts, this information? And then I'll keep it related. You talked about a little bit before the show, so the audience didn't have the privilege and pleasure of hearing, but you talked about how you're especially good at vetting. And you were talking about, there's all this problem with inaccuracy and how critical accuracy is. And we had Mike Moore as our guest expert last week. He's our editor-in-chief of our student newspaper.
Okay.
And he was talking about the importance of accuracy. So how do you get these tips and leads, and then how do you ensure the accuracy? Because your website is dead on.
Yeah, that's some people just have a knack for it. I mean, you're just trying to weed through what's real, what's not, and believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. And I've even been on scene, and it's not what I thought it was. So it's the same mentality when people start talking, I saw this and this person saw this, and then you come to the natural conclusion, if someone saw this and saw this, this is what must be what happened. And that's not always the case, So, obviously pictures are important, and a lot of times on Facebook, people will just start messaging me. They'll either put it on my timeline, on Facebook, or they'll just message me. Some people don't want their name associated with it. I try to be careful about people posting stuff while they're driving. I'm not encouraging anyone to ever do that, or to sit there and gawk over maybe a deceased body in the road. So very careful about what gets put out there, and very quick to try to delete things that shouldn't be out there, and say a fatality crashed, I don't want the vehicle out there. It's not appropriate. If other media outlets or helicopters want to shine down and show that, that's on them. I'm not going to have a loved one see it on my site. So, I try, if I hear the same thing from multiple people, that's part of that vetting process. Again, the radio traffic, what's going on, and if it's in my area, I'll go there and look and see for myself. I never really talk to people that were involved in it. I don't throw microphones in people's faces. I report what my camera sees. And if there's plenty of times where I'm 99% sure of something, I'm not going to put it out there. I'll wait for that official confirmation, put out by the agency that's working on it. So that's important, especially now you keep hearing fake news. If I do make an error, and not very often, I'll put it out there. I can't think of anything over my last 4.5 years where I just blatantly put out wrong information. It just doesn't happen. I'm proud of that. And when you need to build your reputation out there online. If you're blogging or putting stuff out, you need to be the authority. You need to stand for something. And if you're completely putting out wrong information, that's a problem. I may have grammatical issues. I'm posting most of what I do on my cell phone, and those things happen. And my followers they know that. I'll go back and fix it when I get a lunch or a dinner or whatever. I'll go back and fix those kind of things. I don't know if I covered...
Well, you definitely for sure covered the how you get your information.
Yes.
Or you definitely covered accuracy.
Okay.
But so do most of your leads then come in through between the radio and Facebook, or
the majority? I mean, I have so many followers. I call it like consumer-driven news. I'll have like someone message me, hey, do you know what's going on here? And then I'll have another message. I make it 80 messages a day. And somebody say, hey, what's going on here? So when I start getting a bunch of people saying, hey, what's going on here, I'll start looking into it. And sometimes I may not know, and I found that if I get enough information, I put it out there, it'll force the news media to call the public information officer at that agency, and we'll get the information. So I'm not one to call the public information officer, because they don't always, a lot of times they don't know. It's the officer on scene and his sergeant and his lieutenant and his captain, and then his captain relays it to the public information officer who puts it out. And again, theirs aren't always right. I've been on scene, I'm like looking at the press release saying, that's not what happened. And so it's not always the news media that's putting it out. It's just they're putting it out because that's what they got. So don't want to all come out on the news media as getting things wrong, because a lot of times they are given wrong information. So it's just, if there's enough interest in a story, that's really good enough for me to start looking into it and try to dig and see what's going on.
Okay, so the information comes in on Twitter and Facebook and maybe even personal messages.
Email at news@IONTB, or all different ways.
If you're getting 80 messages a day, I am so glad that you answered ours. Thank you so much.
You may just get a thumbs up at times, but no, I got your email, and I have lots of emails.
I really appreciate that. You were one of the first people to respond, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, that's important though.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're trying to build your presence. Depends on what you're blogging about. For the longest time I stayed behind the camera. And then I started getting in front of the camera a little bit. And as you can see, that's not my expertise. Yeah.
You've got to be doing better than I am. It's okay.
I don't know. Well, let's put up a poll. Can we put up a poll?
I don't know. Can we, Chris? Is that a thing?
Yeah, Chris, you've been quiet.
No, not.
All right.
Putting up a poll would not.
I'm just joking.
I can do that right now.
That's outside of our technical expertise, but we'll get there.
You'll work
one
on
day.
that.
A poll is possible, but
We just don't know.
All right. So I started doing some live streaming on Scenes. I've done some live streaming in my studio with the green screen. And it gives your blog a face, a person. And I think over years, the people that have been following me know who I am, know what I stand for. Because sometimes when you put things out on social media, or you put things out in your blog, people interpret things different ways. And in the society that we live in, pretty divisive. And knowing who you are as a blogger, if someone didn't know how to interpret something, they know, because they know who I am, what I stand for, and what I do, and the person that I am. So it's important. I think it's important to know who that. For most bloggers, depends what you're blogging about, to put a face with it. Don't hide behind it.
Okay, so to brand yourself.
It's important. Branding's important. Yeah. So branding.
Yeah. So brand yourself. I was going to get to the shirt eventually. I was getting there. But so branding yourself is important, and that's good to know. And then the accuracy, and then following up on the leads, and that immediacy in not only responding to your content, but also in responding to people who are trying to reach out to you.
Absolutely, because if they get no response, they're not going to ever submit anything to you again. Okay, yeah, thanks for that. Or I may not be able to cover it. It may not be a big deal. Or I may not get to it for 45 minutes and the road's clear. It may not be an issue. But yeah, I get back to them. Thanks, I was in a meeting. Thanks, I couldn't do this. And that's important, because if you want that kind of feedback, reaching out and doing that, and that's what the other media, you go message them, you're not going to get a response back. Of course, they get so many followers, but sometimes you get too big, and that's what happens. So I think it's important to do that and try to respond to as many people as you can, because that's who's following you. That's the people that are depending upon you.
Okay, and I wanted to touch back on one of the things you were talking about, because last week we were talking about storytelling through different types of media, and the week before that we had Ashley from the famous AshleyGrant.com, and she is a professional blogger. Mm-hmm. And both of these guests talked about using different media types. Mm-hmm. And you were just specifically talking about live streaming and from your studio, the importance of having yourself out there. But I just wondered if you would be willing to touch for a second on the idea of using multiple types of media in telling stories. Because even though your stories are very different from Ashley's, which are very different from
Absolutely,
Mike's,
and that's
we're all
what blogging's
storytellers.
about, right? And you got to pick from all your perfect bloggers what fits your blog, and what I do may be different than what somebody else does, but that doesn't mean one's right and one's not. It's what works for your blog, and I think what I'm doing is working. Now, can I be doing better? Probably, but like you said, time, and you do as much as you can. As much as I want to start working on my website, I got to go to a call. So you can only do so much. In terms of visual storytelling, photos are important. If I just put out there a story and I don't have a photo, even if it's not a substantial photo, you find that not as many people go to it. Okay, just It may be an overall scene photo. I don't use stock photos. Okay, you're not going to see a single photo on my site that wasn't submitted to me or that I put up there, because you got the copyright issues and all the things you got to worry about in journalism, and not on my site. Everything is everything's been approved. People have submitted it to me, or I've done myself, and I logo everything for that purpose. So you find that some people like video. Sometimes, you want to relay more information. Again, I'm a news-based thing, so a news-based site, so if I'm on scene and I want to get out more information, I'll go live. I'll go live on Facebook. I'll go live on YouTube. I'll go live on Periscope. And all these different things. And at the end, I pull it kind of all together into the story, because it's a developing story. And you don't know what it is at first, and then it kind of develops. And I know we're going to be talking about permalinks, and that kind of weird, because when you first post it, you have that permalink now, and you can't change it. So, but it may not be completely accurate in that what the title is later on.
See, I like this a lot that you talked about. First of all, I liked what you had to say about pick and choose what you're hearing. And the funny thing about perfect bloggers is, well, that's a whole other story. But anyway, so picking and choosing what you're getting from guests, from the class materials, from your resources, not trying to be perfect at everything all at once, and maybe some things might not ever be for you. But so I like that idea, and I like that you've said that, because I don't want students to feel anxious if they're not doing everything and doing everything perfectly. Then they're failures. So, and maybe I'm the only person in the world who thinks like this.
No, you do what you do and do what you do well. If you're writing a blog about grammar and spelling, you better have your grammar in place, and you better spell correctly. If I make the mistake, I did it on my phone. I did the best I could, and the people following me know that. I'll fix it later on when I get home and get on the computer and your eyes start failing and those phones are getting smaller. They got bigger for a while, now they're getting smaller, and your fingers are getting bigger and your eyesight's going. And you do the best you can. And again, that personal side of people know who I am. I could read, I could write, I could spell. And you do the best you can, but that's nitpicking. And you're going to have that in social media. You're going to have people that are complaining about anything. And you just brush it off. Unfortunately, I try not to, but you definitely can't start a debate about it, because you're not going to change their mind, and they're not going to change your mind on social media. It's how many people have lost friends on Facebook over political discussions. I don't go there. In fact, I hardly use my Facebook account, my personal Facebook account. So, again, I'm out there getting the news out there, and I think people realize that, need to realize it. And if I have a misspelling or a comma in the wrong place, so be it. But you get hate mail. Okay,
so pick and choose, prioritize, and you're getting hate mail anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean you should. And that's the thing. There's a lot of discussion out there of when stories are posted. You have both sides, and it gets ugly. It gets ugly to the point where I've had people say they've gone on my own page and I've gotten death threats. I've gotten law enforcement involved. People have taken people's profile photos and posted it on my timeline. I mean, it's ugly, and it's sad. It's sad that's where we are as a society, that I got to spend my time policing posts. And it can be simple. It can be a simple thing. Like last night, there was a 3-year-old that got bit by a dog in Seminole. And the people say, oh, it's the dog's fault. Oh, it's the kid's fault. It's the, and you have this big discussion going on. Dude, the kid got bit, okay? Why are we placing blame? The door was shut. The kid opened the door. I mean, put the dog down. Oh, the parents are at fault. It's nonsense, and it's ugly. And it's a bummer that you got to deal with it and decide what you want to take down, what you don't want to take down, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. But you need to have that if you're a blogger. You've got to have those lines drawn, and I let people say what they need to say, but when it comes personal, name calling, going to people's profiles, boom, they're gone. And you're gone. I don't have time for it. I don't.
Okay.
And I struggled with that for a while.
Okay. So you do this, and when you say, so you do this, you do all of this. You put the stuff out, you manage Facebook, and you said earlier, it looks like a very big news organization. Which
Well, good, thank you.
It definitely looks like a very big news organization, but it's actually super small, as in it's pretty much just you, right?
Yeah, except during the day when I'm at work and I have a little bit of help. And that rotates, depends who's available. And if I don't post one day, I don't post, but I'll make up for it when I get home. There's always news that's there, and then people tell me I cancel my newspaper, I don't only watch TV. And hey, if they get the news, if something happens at 11 o'clock and I post about it at 6 o'clock, that's when they would have seen it anyways on the news or tomorrow morning in the paper. So yeah, I try to be as quick as possible, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If I get a nasty gram that I didn't respond to something, or it is what it is.
Okay, so you do the best that you can, and you do it mostly by yourself. So I want to talk about some of the fundamentals that we've been talking about in the class this week.
Okay.
As far as some of the technical aspects, and I want to revisit this idea of picking and choosing, because some of the things may not be particularly useful or applicable to you in what you're doing on your blog.
Right.
But they still might be more applicable to one of our students, or
Absolutely.
doing something on their blog. So I just want to throw that disclaimer out there that you may not be super into something that we're doing, but it's okay if they still are. Or you may be very into something that they're not doing.
Or something I wish I was doing better when I started the blog, and it's different. And my blog's kind of different in how I get people, and everyone says, how do you get so many followers? Well, it kind of gets itself. When you start a blog, you look and say, is there interest in it? Or am I just blogging for my own self, and it's practice and journalistic practice, and if I have 10 followers, that's great. If I have 200 followers, that's great. So it depends on what you want to get out of your blog. Are you doing it for you, or are you trying to build a huge audience? What are your goals?
Okay, so if you could just talk with us for a second, just in your own words, because we got stuff from textbooks and resources and the professor and everything else.
Right.
But just as a professional, as an expert, what is a
If you say
permanent
so.
link? I do. So, and I also pride myself on accuracy. So we're going to say that it is so. Talk to us about what is a permalink, and how do you use them in your blogging?
I host my site using WordPress, so I could speak in terms of WordPress, but I know Joomla and all the others, they all use a permalink, and a permalink is really what you see up in that header bar for your address. So on my site would be iontb.com/ and then I use the standard WordPress, so it uses some of the words from your title. Okay, it puts that in there. There's other ways you could do it, and at first I don't want to do that. I want to have it by date. I want to have it by number, and there's all those options within WordPress to do, but you need to start thinking about how are you going to show up in searches, in Bing and Yahoo and Google. When they talk, I don't know if you talked about SEO, or is that coming up? Or,
it is coming up. So anything you want to say,
I'll attend. I'll watch you guys. So those are important. For these search engines that are out there, I guess, crawling through, trying to figure out what's going to show up on their site. And it's pretty much recommended to stay with the standard permalink, which has the keywords from your title. Or you can set up some custom ones. I know you can do it by tag or by category or those kind of things. I just pretty much stuck with the standard. Again, it's not like I had a huge, just got kind of thrown in there. I didn't have the big course on how to blog, how to do this. It just kind of happened, and I started doing it. But it's important to really research it, because once that permalink changes, if you were to change it, you've lost all those links or all those things that have crawled your website. Where if you click those sites, if you change that permalink, those sites aren't there anymore. They're not going to get to them. So it's important when you start your blog, you really look into how do I want to do it. And I've just stuck with that standard permalink, and I have no regrets about that. I'm just kind of happy I did it, because that's not really how I wanted to have a post number and all this other stuff. So.
Now, I have a question about this because you were talking about how that was the other thing I don't think that I talked about more, but I just want to touch back on something from 5 minutes ago. But I really like the way that you talk about the idea of a story developing through this different media. So when you first get on the scene, if it's something big and you feel that it's appropriate, you might use live streaming from Facebook, which is a really great tool, or YouTube, but live streaming is a really great tool to help to bring your audience information immediately before maybe you've had a chance to vet it. Again, if you can do it responsibly, which it sounds like you take that responsibility.
Well, you don't have the
seriously.
quality on the phone that you do.
Right.
You know, if there's something, and I'll just take a picture from a camera, and a lot of it's at night. Yeah, you don't see from your phone, you're not going to see the detail that you would see when I'm sitting there with my zoom lens and able to zoom in, which will be put up later if appropriate.
Yes, and then getting the story, and you have the writing, or you have what you need to make sure that you have in the video, and then having the more conscious video storytelling where you're looking at things that help to tell that story visually. So I love that idea. But so you're out there and you're not quite sure what's going on yet. You know enough to feel like it's news and it's responsible to broadcast it or whatever. But how do you make those decisions? And you touched on this. How do you make those decisions with that title, knowing that title is going to become irrevocable?
Right.
How do you make those decisions? Do you have any hints or tips or tricks that developing bloggers may be able to employ to help them to make decisions on those titles during that gathering stage?
I battle with that. You know, you'll put up there, crashed the other night, a woman was, killed in a vehicle crash. Now, if I knew all the facts later on, you could say, woman, DUI driver, kills a woman. But you don't know that at the time. You don't know that for hours later, and after the investigation, the arrest is made. So it forces you to, and I have no problem changing titles. And of the article, I try to put that these things were changed, but it's never substantially different. It adds to it. So I try to make it fact. Some people just say some of my posting are just honest and blunt because it's just facts. I'm not editorializing, and that's just what works for my blog. People aren't here to hear my opinion. If they want news opinion, they could put on Talking Heads on the news. These are the facts. And it may just be, okay, here's a sentence, this is what happened, here's a time, and then we build on the story. So the permalink is still accurate. There's nothing, I'm not saying, hey, the guy was drunk and then he wasn't drunk. Something I have to take out. So you just be aware of when you put your first title in there. Yeah, it may be more vague because you don't know all the facts, but I'll go in later, maybe refine it a little bit, change the title of the article, and then if I repost it on Facebook, you go to that Facebook debugger and you can actually have it re-image everything, or Twitter validator to so it shows a proper picture and the new title. But the permalink's still going to remain the same.
I still want to talk about those things now, but I'm going to hold myself. I'm going to hold myself back. If we have time, I'm coming back to that. I want to talk about that more. But for now, let's talk about the super exciting topic of linkbacks. So what are they, and then how do you use them? How do they work with you?
They're interesting to me. I get notified in Facebook, and Google Analytics will show you kind of who's linking back. And that means someone put a link to your article on their page. So it's interesting to me. I don't depend on it. It depends on your blog. If you're blogging, you want to get out there. You want to, exchange ideas with other bloggers maybe. In the news business, nobody wants to acknowledge, at least in the news media, my existence. They live off my Twitter feed. They follow it. I'm on all these different groups, and they get a Twitter feed, and they're sending news crews to go check on it. So they live off what I post, but never would they acknowledge me, or very rarely, unless they really need to, and then they'll offer to buy my video or my photos, which isn't very often and not worth my time. But it's interesting, I've gotten acknowledged from Chicago and some of the news affiliates outside this area when I've followed up, and follow-up's important. I'm not just doing a 6 o'clock broadcast and I'm moving on to the next story. I try to do follow-ups and provide follow-ups on what happened through the court system. And that's important, trying to follow up, and it's not just an old story. Things go on, people's lives there's a lot of victims and a lot of people's lives that are turned upside down, and I understand that, and I think a lot of my viewers understand that. So, where are we talking? I just got
Link
off topic.
backs, that's okay.
So with link backs, I look through every once in a while just kind of for humor's sake. Again, I don't depend on that because my site I can't depend on link backs in my type of blog. But a lot of the personal injury attorneys, do link backs and say, oh, this is what happened. Hey, if you're involved in this kind of crash, let me know. Recently I was in one of the police online magazines regarding the unfortunate suicide of a law enforcement officer. And we have a real issue in this area, and the media doesn't want to touch on it with our first responders. We have had 7, 8. In the past 2.5 years in the fire service that have committed suicide. And it's sad. And I've tried to get some of the media to pay attention to it, but you know probably better than I do in journalism, if it's not in a public place, and let's not talk about it. And it's sad because it's still a taboo subject, but we really want people to come forward and ask for help. It's mind-boggling to me. So, right, now I forgot where we were again.
Well, that's okay. We were at link backs, but if you're...
So with link back, I find it, I look back to see who's following me, but again, I don't depend on it. But it is interesting. So you could set up, like I said, through Google Analytics or WordPress will kind of keep track of it, or I'll just go to the search engine, type in IOTV, and look at what's going on. So, it's nice to see other media outlets like in Chicago regarding a story that I did, and, I've had all over the country, but in terms of local, we started working together early on. And that relationship's kind of important, It's like, you can use whatever photos of mine you want, It's just no problem. But because it kind of got my name out there, and that's important. You may have to do that at the beginning. You may have to give up some things for you to start getting your own brand, your own identity, and then all of a sudden they all stopped using it. I think they started feeling like I was encroaching on their territory. So. In terms of link backs, they don't mean much to me, but they should to you, to most bloggers. It's important to know who's doing it and how that blog may be able to assist you, or you can assist them in forging a relationship if possible.
Okay, and do you have any suggestions or any thoughts or ideas if you did want link backs? Have you found any correlation between what you post or how you post and the preponderance of link backs? Are there more if you do some things or less if you do others? Have you found any connections?
Not really. Again, I don't
That's fair.
get a whole lot. I think, again, forging those relationships, or if you're on Twitter, retweeting something that somebody else put and they retweet you, and it's building those relationships that early on I kind of had to do it. Now it's like, I don't care. I don't need you anymore.
I have a t-shirt. I have a shirt with a logo. I have a button-down collar shirt with a logo. I don't need you anymore.
That's right. Yeah, I got hats and all kinds of t-shirts and all kinds of stuff.
Once you get keychains, you've made it big time.
You want a keychain? I haven't done a keychain. My kid's trying to set me up at these merchandise stores where the person can just get order anything you want. And they got some interesting things. I'll put your logo on. I'm like, no,
Yes.
that's got to go. So, but yeah, it's not about selling merchandise. I mean, for a while I was doing some crowdfunding kind of thing, and if you give a certain amount, we'll send you a hat or a shirt, and it's part of the brand thing. I mean, I've had people ask, and I get tons of merchandise at home, but I'm not in the merchandise business. I just want enough to pay my bills, and which of course keeps going as you keep taking people in terms of server width and bandwidth and hosting, and keeps going.
I want to hit this and hit it hard, but first I want to finish. I just want to make it through the topics because if students are watching this as a study aid or as
you'll get in trouble. You will not be able to host this anymore.
That would be a good thing. Guys, let's do that.
I was going to have to grab you to bring you back to your seat. I know.
We will come back to that, but just as a responsibility I feel a responsibility to the students. I'm a
Yes,
teacher by
yes.
trade, so I just want to make sure that we touch on all the topics that are important. Plus, I don't want them to have watched just for the topics. Believe it or not, they don't watch for this. This is not why they watch. But and then not give them the information that they wanted.
Right.
But I definitely want to come back to that as quickly as we can, and I just want to sit on that all the way until Chris makes us
We'll talk
stop.
really fast.
Yeah. Okay. I can do that. Okay. So tags, go.
Tags. Have you talked about categories?
No, we have not. But if you want to talk about tags in response to the idea of categories, We just talked about tags, just what they are. So if you want to talk about it within the idea of category, you do whatever.
Well, I know
you
in terms of WordPress, I'll talk really fast. In terms of WordPress, we set up categories on our site. Not we, me. I have news. That's my main one. I have some aerial videos. I have some other stuff that I think I put on there. I think I have a live streaming feed. Some things I kind of playing around with. I had an Owlbox stream. I had an Owlbox in my front yard. I streamed for a while. So those are your categories, and those are real broad categories. Within categories, you could have it's hierarchical, so you could have subcategories, and I don't think you want it all that complicated. But you can always add categories, but you want to try to categorize your blogs. Then within that, you have tags, and tags aren't hierarchical; they're just tags. And so if you're doing a blog on food or entertainment, within that food category, you may have certain types of food or certain wines or seafood, and those would be your tags. For that article that you wrote, I'm talking about wine pairing or seafood and those kind of things, or if I'm talking about nightlife and you're talking about nightlife or bars, and so you kind of want to put 3 or 4 or 5 tags to go ahead with that particular article, and you want to kind of try to use those same tags over and over. And I know I didn't understand it, and I got tags all over the place. I've got to clean it up in my spare time. On mine it may be a crash, it may be DUI, it may be a fatality, it may be Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, or it may be the town, Largo. So those are kind of the main tags, and that's important again for SEO, for the crawling of the search engines and important for searching articles within your website.
Yeah, because if we click on a tag, so if the tag is, it has to be both general and specific simultaneously.
Right.
Because then everything from that tag gets kind of put almost into a container
big bucket.
or a bin or a
right.
bucket.
You click on that tag and everything in the DUI is going to come up.
Yes, and then that way if somebody reads something that you did about a DUI, or if somebody's doing research about DUI, or for some reason that topic is particularly important to them, if they're a personal injury attorney, then they can just select...
I want to see DUI crashes.
Yes.
Right.
So, yes.
And that's different than, I know, like YouTube. I know a lot of people, YouTubers, so for YouTubers, they're putting it out and they're putting keywords all over the place because they want to come up because they want to monetize their videos, and so it's a little different. You don't want to have 100 tags on an article that's 3 paragraphs. So you want to try to make it specific, because I think it's pretty frowned upon, when you have that many tags and they're trying to search through your website. And what we're talking about today may change tomorrow. Google could say, hey, we're changing their search techniques. And so you want to try to keep up with really what's out there and what the search engines are actually looking for. And there's, of course, companies you could pay them money to optimize it. And I may not be out there as coming up, first line on the sites, but still posting on Facebook and Twitter, they're actually showing up like on Google searches now. So I may not show up in Google News with all the other news media, but if someone types something in, you're going to see it right down below, because I posted on Facebook. And I find, sometimes it's easier to just do that for me than to go through all the hoops of I'm not writing an AP style and Google News doesn't like what I'm putting out, because the way I do it and the way I put updates on, I may not meet their criteria, so I keep getting rejected.
That's okay.
And Twitter hasn't validated me yet either.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll try again. That's okay. I did get second place. I know it doesn't count in the Creative Loafing Best Person to Follow on Twitter as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did.
So maybe I'll submit that to Twitter and say, please. So
they should have some clout. The Creative Loafing.
I don't care.
But I will verify that when I Googled you, when I was doing the research / stalking you to prepare for this show.
That's great.
It's always good.
Probably boring.
No, it was great. But the Twitter feed came up and the Facebook feed came up, and I had to dig a little bit to find, more specific things I was looking for, not just Twitter, Facebook. But that's good, because that means that but it was all you. There was no like Stephen Hirschfield mows a lawn in Alabama.
Right.
So it was all you, and it was all I Tampa Bay.
Right.
So you're doing something right somehow. No.
Not what the wife says, but
Well, that's kind of our job.
No, that's good.
Just so you know, the specific numbers that we're recommending for this course is 2 to 5
3 to 5
tags.
2 to 5, right.
Yeah. As a general rule, but again,
it
there are times...
depends on the size of the article, complexity of the article and so forth, right? Just don't get in the habit of not using tags or using 30 of them. And that's pretty much the main thing, I think.
Okay, so now I know this is not one that you're big on, the blog roll, but if you just wanted to speak for a minute about blog rolls, what they are and what you think about them, and then we can just move on.
We can move on. I don't know a whole lot about blog rolls. I know a lot of times people set them up on their side, as kind of featuring other people or other bloggers. I don't know how, and things change in social media, I'm not sure blog rolls are as important as they were. I don't know. I'm honestly not an expert on that. And again, stick with what you know and do well. So with the blog rolls, I come back to, if you want to give someone, I find you can put their tweet up. You could put some of the other things up if you want to feature some of the work that they're doing that may blend with what you're doing. But just to put somebody up there, I don't know. Do you get permission? Do you ask them if you could do it? And if you ask them, are you kind of asking them to do it back in return? It's kind of, I don't know. I never really delved into that. Again, it's a very unique blog, and everybody has their own blog and niche, and I'm not sure. For some people, it may be appropriate. I don't know. I can't speak a whole lot on it. I haven't used it.
That's fine, we can move on because it'll give us more time to talk about monetization.
It doesn't get you in trouble.
What?
Because we covered it.
We covered it. We just check the box, move on. Okay, so the last one that we have to talk about as far as the class goes that I remember that I wrote down in my notes is widgets. So talk to me about what is a widget and which widgets do you live by?
do you live by? You ask
So
who have it.
Which widgets do you live by, and just tell us anything you want about widgets. Go.
I don't use a whole lot of widgets. Obviously, widgets are little things you could pull onto your site, and tell you, hey, here's the temperature, and if it's raining outside. Is that relevant to my site? No. Is it relevant during Hurricane Irma that I'm putting up warnings and alerts, and at that point, I use some of that. I have a little widget that says click here to donate, to Ion Tampa Bay. I don't think anyone's seen it. But I do have that widget on there. In terms of whether it's a widget or whether it's just the layout of the website, I have separate categories of most viewed. What are my most viewed comments? Or what are my most viewed articles? What are my most commented on articles? So I have those kind of things because I don't know if you could bring up you said you could bring up the website. I don't know. You have the website on there. And you still awake over there?
Yeah. No, I just had to. Yeah.
Right.
So you want to put up the website?
No, I don't. You can.
Yeah.
So you can see those are pretty much stories on there. And then down you scroll down. More popular ones. You can see the little donation link. And then I do have, I forgot all about, good thing you brought it up, the different social media accounts that I have. You can see on there I've got Facebook, Twitter, I'm just pretending like I said, YouTube, and one other one, Instagram, I think. And it tells you how many followers I have, and they can click on that and bring up that account, I believe. So I do use those widgets. You can see there's some ads on there. Of course, blogging, this type of blogging at least requires some money with camera equipment and live studios. And there's always new toys you could buy, new microphones you could buy, and so the money that I do take in, I pretty much put back into it. Like I said, what's that?
It's back on you now.
Oh, okay. I'll stop picking my nose. So so there's always things you can buy, and I try to put back in. I'm fortunate I have a job, it pays the bills, and this is more of a hobby, but you seem to enjoy it more than if it's a job. I don't want it to be a job. It's not what I want to do. I don't want the life of a journalist. Sorry.
Can we edit that out, or it's live? Right?
No, it's live. You're there.
Thanks.
No, more power to you. That's great. So, but I mean, journalism isn't moving. You've got more people like me getting out there. You've got, events breaking out. You see what's going on in New York. Everyone's a journalist. What's a journalist these days? And it's changing. Journalism's changing. And the question is, how does it change and how do you pay the bills? And it's not just me. trying to figure that out. It's the big news corporations trying to figure that out. And how do you go online? You know, there's plenty of TV personalities that go live, Facebook Live all the time, but how does that pay the bills?
This is an excellent question, which brings us right into that.
See, I'm trying to make it easy for you.
You did. Thank you so
You
much.
like the transition?
I
Pretty smooth.
loved it. You just brought it right in.
And I snuck right out of the widget discussion. A
Yes,
little bit.
that was beautiful. Beautifully done. So I would like to end our conversation today. We've got a little under 10 minutes. Chris and I always debate the actual time.
Five?
Well,
6.
my phone says 6:52.
All right, I got 6.
Oh, wait, my
We'll go
phone
6.
says 6:52.
Now 5. Let's go.
Okay, so the monetization.
Yes.
Tell us what you've tried and what have you tried? Well, let's start with the easy stuff. What have you heard of that you're not willing to try? What have you tried or are you trying? What is working best and what do you want to do? So let's start with what have you heard of that you are not willing to do?
What, in terms of monetization?
Yes.
Well, I don't want to be like some of the sites where you got to watch a 30-second video just to watch what you may want to see. Because I know I just click it off. I just not going to do it. So you want to have, you got some kind of ads, but you don't want it to destroy what the person's trying to do. You know, okay, you have a little ad on the bottom, that's fine. It's kind of unobtrusive. You know, mine, it's on the side. I have a couple banner ads within the article. Not a big deal. Of course, the more ads you have, the more money you may get, unless you make it a bad experience and then you lose that viewership. So it's that balance between what do you want to have on there, how much can you have to maximize it. Right now, I've been using Google. I know I could probably do better, if I were to approach, and I've had people ask me how much if I were to advertise on your site. But before I was able to answer that question, I need to look at what kind of volume am I getting? You know, am I getting $1 or $2? Can I get $1 or $2 per 1,000 page views? So when I start looking at that and I start looking at my numbers, you know, in January I switched to a new server, and in January I was able to start getting really more accurate numbers, and I was trying to get away, and more so trying to get away from Facebook and Twitter and driving people to my website, because I don't get anything for posting on Facebook. Who decides who sees my timeline and who doesn't? Twitter's good because it's not filtered, it's just a notification, but you have different groups and demographics of people that I use Facebook and what's Twitter. And you know, some people go on, you know, my kids are like, you're on Facebook? They're on Snapchat and Instagram. So who's your demographic? Who's your audience? And that's important to know that. So I was looking to see, you know, can I go out to, because this is, like you said, it's very local. So there's plenty of local businesses that would love to, I mean, I'm looking through my numbers and I'm thinking, you know, I've got, you know, I don't want to throw out exact numbers at you, but we're talking hundreds of thousands of page views a month. I mean, and on Facebook, I know during Hurricane Irma, I think I reached 1.6 million people. That's some serious numbers. What did I get for that? Nothing unless I drove into my website. So yeah, you want to try to drive people to your website, make it a good experience, not a over, you know, thrown in with the ads. So again, it's that careful balance, and I'm sure I could probably do better with local advertisers in a relationship, you know, that I could put out there that, you know, than just having Google put random ads up there. And I've also had problems with Facebook with when people click on my article, they get some pop-ups and some weird stuff going on because of some Facebook does some fancy stuff before they take you to their website. Oh. So I've been working on an app. It's actually probably done today, at least on Android. So I'll have more of an app with some advertising in it, so people will be able to get instant notifications for those that don't use Twitter, that just on Facebook that only see things on the timeline. So I think that will help drive more traffic to my website and give people that better experience, that they'll see the notification, they'll be able to go and just see the information as it is. So versus trying to update stuff on Facebook, which is kind of cumbersome. And it's, how do you get it out there? You post on Twitter, you post on Facebook, Instagram. What's your flow? I'm on scene. I'm like, how much can I do? I'm trying to follow what's going on. I'm trying to attach this photo and put my logo on this photo. And yeah, it's amazing what all I do, so quickly. And yeah, and then somebody yells I left an S at the end or left out an apostrophe. So you want to slap them. But it is what it is. It's part of the business. And so yeah, monetization is important. It might not be important. You may not have a blog where you don't want to do that. You just want to have it out there. But if you could forge some partnerships with some local businesses, and I can now go out there with my analytics and say, this is the kind of traffic I'm getting. Can we have some kind of relationship out there? Because I know I'm not getting fair value from Google.
Yeah, your website, I can't say it enough times. It's amazing. So it's time to wrap up.
Yeah.
And do you?
2 minutes. Three
2
minutes.
minutes.
I have. 2
Yes,
minutes.
but sometimes at the very end, there's something that we want to talk about for like 10 minutes. So we start wrapping up 2 or 3 minutes ahead of time so that we're actually ending on time. So is there anything else that you want our audience of developing bloggers or people who are just interested in blogging, is there anything else that you want them to know?
Well, I mean, just get out and do it. How do you experience in life? You may fail at something, but failing at something makes you better, and you grow on that. You're not always going to and no one's going to give you the perfect advice on how you're going to go out there and be a great blogger. And you think I followed anyone's advice? I just went out and did it. When I started, I didn't think this is where it's going to be. I mean, very, very non-traditional in how I did it, but I did it. So it may not be the way I do it. It may not be the way other people do it. Get out and do it. Don't always do that group think. Go out there on a limb. Maybe be that leader, and somebody say, hey, that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll start doing that. So what works for me and where everybody else, that doesn't mean that's the way you have to do it. Get out there, experiment. Look at the kind of traffic you're getting. Talk to other people. Talk to other bloggers. Just go out there and do it. You make mistakes along the way. Yeah, we all make mistakes along the way. You're not going to go out there and be perfect and get everything right. And I make mistakes along the way, and I don't care. It's you just be passionate about what you do and be proud of what you do, but have a goal. Why are you doing it? Don't start a blog and just start randomly throwing stuff out there. I mean, if you feel passionate about something, whatever your topic is for your blog, go for it.
Okay, and on that, Chris, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or ask our guests?
We left you with 10 seconds, Chris. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. There's no time.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to be...
Next week, this will be Professor Casey Frechette. It won't be me. He will be him, and he will be here. And he will be with guest, I've got the name up right here. Okay, Kristen Campbell from theroadtodomestication.com. She is a professional blogger. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, and we hope to see you next week.
Okay.